Chair of Nigerian Diaspora Commission, for the great work you are doing. Anybody following the NIDCOM issue in our country will see the kind of progression that we have had in the last, even before the coming of this administration, but you have actually intensified it now. There's so much work that NIDCOM is doing, and it's not just uniting Nigerians with their brothers and sisters in diaspora, but also helping to resolve issues where there are, and then project Nigeria's image also where necessary, so that Nigerians can know, and the world should know, that Nigeria is not just a place for bad people. Nigeria is also a place for very good people, excellent people actually. Yesterday when I was at the AU, I had engagement with a lot of Nigerians, and I just imagined that if you take away Nigerians from the African Union system, I mean, the efficiency there certainly will not be the same. And that is further intensified by the re-election of our own ambassador yesterday as a commissioner for political security and peace and security. And there, I think that's a further reinforcement of the belief that people have about our country. So we want to thank you first, and then for also putting this together wherever you go. Wherever the president goes, I've noted that the diaspora issue comes there. We've seen that in many countries. We saw that in New York, in China, in so many other places. And I think it's one opportunity for Nigerians to really reconnect with their brothers and sisters in diaspora. But beyond that, also understand comprehensively what is happening at home, and then also, saying their challenges so that Nigerian government can help them to prosper, because whatever we do is about our country. Nigerians are going there to prosper. I don't believe that Nigerians are just going there to commit crimes. They are going there to add to the economy of those people, and then also improve on the remittances that also bring home for the diaspora community. And like she has mentioned, if you look at the leap that you have seen between in the last couple of years, the investments, the kind of inflow that Nigerians in diaspora are bringing to the country is really helping in also repositioning the economy. And this is one of the things that the president is always talking about. If you look at it, and the notes I have, in February this year, we have an 8-month high in terms of remittances, in terms of even the improvement of the value of the naira that we see in this country. And this is an indication that the reform that the president has started is already beginning to slowly, but beginning to go in the right direction. So the diaspora community, the remittances and the exchanges that are happening between Nigerians and those in diaspora now is helping to actually improve the capital inflow, and in the process also improving on our FDIs, the foreign direct investment to the country. And this is why the last point that was mentioned is key, the issue of orientation, the issue of advocacy, the issue of enlightenment. I think this is very critical. Every opportunity I've had as Minister of Information and National Orientation, I have said, without apology, that yes, we may have some negatives in this country, in our country, Nigeria, but we have so many positives to say. So I don't get it when, especially the media or those in the social media, will just take up something and the only thing they project are those bad things about your country. You cannot have that when, at a time when Nigeria is asking foreigners to come and invest in your country, and then, every opportunity you have is to talk ill about your country. And this should not be misconstrued, because I'm not saying that you cannot be critical of government, you cannot be critical of certain policies that I think government is putting in place. But I think it is important. Patriotism is key. You cannot run down your country and expect others to come and invest in your country. It's not going to happen. And so one of the advantages that the Nigerians in diaspora are doing is also to clear that. I'm happy to note that here, because of the work that you are doing, there is a relatively low level of crime, so to say, here. Yes, we are not happy whenever Nigerians are in prison for the wrong reason. Of course, you couldn't be in prison for the right reason. You're always in the reason for the wrong reason. But we don't feel happy that Nigerians are committing this crime. When you were reading out that about 200, and I'm happy to hear that the number is actually down to about 108 officially, 106 or thereabout. It's still too big for us. I mean, we don't want any Nigerian to be in prison outside our country. And therefore, the MOU that you started that the Minister of Foreign Affairs is pursuing with his Ethiopian counterpart, I believe, will address this very squarely. Getting this prisoner transfer exchange, whatever you call it, where you have prisoners who have committed crime here, being taken back to Nigeria and be put in Nigerian prison. But like you said, trust has to be there. Because when you get them out and then you find them back in a year or two, then of course the trust issue will be there, and the host community, the host country will always be very, very skeptical about that. But I know that with the commitment that the federal government is having now, with the kind of direction that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is giving the country, putting it back on the world map, he's not just a leader for Nigeria now, he's also a leader for Africa. From the time he took office, 3 months after when he went to the UN in 2023, I mean, if you listen to the president's speech there, he didn't speak there just for Nigeria. The president spoke for Africa. And everywhere he goes, everywhere the president has been to, yes, Nigeria is there. Nigeria is a leading country, but he is also taking the stage to reclaim Africa's rightful place in the affairs of things. And if you see what happened here in the last couple of days, I attended the session that had this African, what's it called, this African Credit Rating Agency debate. I think this is one of the most beautiful things that will happen to our country, because like we said over and over, capital is the enabler for every business to thrive. And if somebody is using some kind of assessment for you to access that capital, and that person does not, either deliberately does not understand what you do, or he's, deliberately being mischievous, then he cannot give you a good rating, and that in turn will also affect the kind of capital inflow you have, which will also drive down the capital investment that we require for our country to grow. So we need to look at the issue of risk, and we know that some of these risks are, every capital investment, will have issues of risk, but we as Africans know where our problems are. We need a lot of money to put into infrastructure, to put into healthcare, to put into education. Where would that money come from? Somebody said yesterday that of all the investments that happen, that less than 5% of that is actually coming to the African continent. And then look at the kind of monies that are moving out of Africa to develop these countries. So we need to pay attention to all these things that will improve on our capital formation, that will in turn drive our economic growth in our country, and not just in Africa, all over the African continent. And this is key. We need to pursue that vigorously. Chairman mentioned the issue of the visa. I think you were the one that talked about the visa issue. I think that Nigeria will need to really, it's not in my place, it's actually the issue of foreign affairs to look at the issue of visa. But we cannot, every relationship between countries is a reciprocal thing. So if we give them visa on arrival, there's no reason why they should not also give us visa on arrival. I'm sure, and I'm happy to hear that the Minister of Foreign Affairs has an MOU, which is being discussed at the highest level, to ensure that Nigerians go, because if you are here and your families can't come here, then there's a problem. Last year I represented Nigeria in Indonesia, and I found out that in Indonesia there are over 50 big companies operating in Nigeria. But we didn't have 5 companies operating in India, so what's the problem? If they want to come to our country to trade because our population, our ability to purchase whatever, services and goods, then there should also be that reciprocal arrangement where Nigerians also are given the rightful place. And it's the same problem. The visa issue is the same problem that you find in Ethiopia here, that you also find in Indonesia. It becomes very complex for people to give Nigerians visa. So we need to do also our own soul searching. We need to recover our senses. We don't allow the bad people to represent us, and that is where you come in. You are the ones who are here, and like the Honorable Chairman said, if you don't represent us well, then there's no way we look good. The visit of the president to Ethiopia from time to time, or the visit of any minister here, cannot do it. It is those who are here living with them that can change whatever perception that they have about our country. And so I'm happy Honorable Muhyiddin Alemi, for what you are doing. In addition to your work, also making it very critical that you help to change the narrative about the perception of especially Ethiopians in our country. And this is a major hub. It is housing the African Union. All the continental agencies are here. The headquarters are here. So I believe if you get it right in Ethiopia, the chances are that you're going to get it right all over Africa. Yeah. And so let's pursue that. Let us deepen this. The president is doing a lot. I will just give an example. The healthcare, because someone here is representing the healthcare industry, the kind of medical industrialization that is beginning to happen in our country is unprecedented. Only a few weeks ago, the Minister of Health informed us that about $1.07 billion coming into our country for not just to come and sell drugs and pharmaceuticals to us, but also to set up these manufacturing industries. Times have gone past when you just bring in these goods and you go. Our trajectory now is that, yes, we buy things from you, but you also set up those factories that you think we need to produce these things in our country so that people can get jobs. There will be technology transfer, there will be knowledge transfer, and then that will also show up our own local currency. So a lot is happening. In the education sector, apart from all the reforms happening, we hear that about $32 billion in less than 250 days have been made available to students who want to go to higher institutions in our country. 20 billion of that is going to payment of school fees. About 12.8 billion of that is going into upkeep allowance. And I was just talking to the Nel Fund man this morning, and he said the numbers are actually moving. That from the time those numbers were given last week to date, as well an additional injection of about 600 million naira into this. This is unprecedented. What the president is saying is that for anyone who can go to school but has been hitherto hindered by the inability of his parent or guardian to take his child to school, cannot be the case again. You cannot be denied education now because your parent or guardian is unable to pay for you. This has never happened. What kind of revolution would you have if the citizens are not properly educated? So this is in addition to a lot of things. The agriculture, only a few days ago, Nigeria is made vice president of IFA. The Minister of Agri has been chosen as the vice president of International Fund for Agricultural Development. It's a leap forward. And wherever you go, because of this reform, people are beginning to see the direction that the country is moving. And trust is returning gradually in the ability of Nigeria to lead not just Africa, but to also be a great participant on the world stage. And this is where the president is taking the country to. Yes, we know that there are challenges. Reforms are never free and easy anywhere in any part of the world. But where is the destination? This year, 2025, with our $54.9 trillion dollar budget, unprecedented. This is going to be a year of the consolidation and restoration of Nigeria's economy. And this is exactly where we are going. We believe that by the end of this year, Nigerians will sing better stories about our country because of the kind of improvements that's happening, the kind of creativity that is being brought into governance by the president, and the kind of also the belief that Nigerians are beginning to have in the reform agenda of the president. Of course, it's always been there, but of course, like I said, challenges and difficulties make it very difficult to. So, so many of them. Insecurity, before now, for those of you who have heard the story of Nigeria, who have gone back home, I always use the example of Kaduna-Abuja Road. Just 2 years ago, it was problematic. Nobody would just enter his car and start going to Kaduna or to Kano. But today, nobody asks questions again. Before, if you want to go to Kaduna, you begin to ask, did they come out today? Are they there? But today, everybody just carries his key, fuels his car, and begin to travel. Over 8,000 of these criminal elements have been neutralized. About 8,000 equal number have been released from the kidnappers. And about 11,600 of these terrorists have been arrested. These are the new numbers from the security agencies. So I think that it's not a day's job. It's not something that you can just make happen in one day. But I think there is a gradual progression positively towards the prosperity that Mr. President has promised this country when he took office. So for your legacy, what you said about what you are doing is really great, and I feel happy that we have a Nigerian who is putting us on the world map. I'm sure that you are one of those Africans when you talk about fashion, fashion creativity and all that, your name will always be mentioned, and you are a Nigerian, and so we feel very, very proud. We can only encourage you to deepen your participation, to deepen your engagement, for the sake of not just Nigeria, but for the sake of Africa. And I will expect, like she has said, more formal communication, and I will relate with my colleague in the Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy to see how we can collaborate. And surely this year we are not going to have that abysmal number that you. If South Sudan had 90, if South Sudan had 90 plus, Nigerians should have double of that. It's doable, and every day Nigerians travel, so it's not a big deal. But I come back to my initial point: advocacy, engagement, enlightenment. It's also part of our challenge as a Ministry of Information and National Orientation. We take that up, but we also ask you to help us. You are the biggest ambassadors, like the chairman has said. You are the biggest ambassadors of Nigerians wherever you find yourselves, especially here in this very great hub of Ethiopia. Please continue. Don't be daunted. It can be discouraging sometimes, but I think you need to have the bigger picture. You have your eye on your destination, the destination you are going. Let's continue to move in that direction. The story will certainly be different. Thank you so much. I don't know whether I've captured a few things.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Thank you, NICE and everyone.
And solution, which I've already discussed with the Honorable. The key area, because of the time, is the issue of we have about 200 inmates in the quality in the prison here. And undocumented, we have a lot of undocumented, irregular migrants, which can affect the reputation of Nigeria within the community and international community here in Addis Ababa. We know that AU in Addis Ababa is administrative head of the, in terms of AU and ECA, so we have a lot of international presence. So we need to redeem our image, because the increase on undocumented migrants in the community can lead to a lot of other things. And it's also increasing the number, because I personally, when I was voted in, so I visited the prison twice. So, and we find, but my point on this issue is for the Mr. President, we've already, even last year, through the foreign affairs ministers, because we could not able to see Mr. President last year, I also sent the same message to the foreign affairs minister that there is a current MOU between Nigeria and Ethiopia, MOU. So we thank the federal government, but what we want is to expedite the process of the MOU so that they can transfer the image to Nigeria. Because of the time, that's why we cannot discuss. So we will appeal to the Mr. President in his bilateral relation with Ethiopia to try to finalize it. We also have a lot of the Addis Ababa in terms of traffic, drug traffic here is also part of the outcome of our roundtable discussion last year. So in terms of what we can contribute to the Nigeria, I would say the one of our work plan this year is to organize enhancing economic development using the inter-African trade. We are going to organize a workshop in collaboration with Honorable Abike Dabri. This to actually to give awareness to our both people in the community here in Addis Ababa and recent people in Nigeria to harness the opportunity of the inter-African trade. Honorable ministers, we also want Nigeria to also expedite the operationalization of African Central Bank. We congratulate Nigeria for hosting the Minister of Finance Planning in Nigeria recently, and the commissioner of the commissioner that represented the commission also who is willing to make sure that the central bank is operationalized before he leaves the office. We should seize the opportunity, like Africa Remittance Agency, when it was created in Kenya. So we can, the Minister of Finance can start by sending secondary staff to this place. I know the kind of political issue around it, but we should also try to, apart from our annual contribution, we should make sure that we put our money where our interest is. So it's also very, very important. So then lastly, it's also correlated to what I just mentioned in terms of irregular migrant. So recently, Ethiopia government give e-visa and visa on arrival to all the national in Addis Ababa. But because of what is happening here in Addis Ababa, the Ethiopia governments have cancelled the e-visa and visa on arrival. Especially those of us who work here, it's very difficult for family to visit, or not, extended family. They give privilege to, if you have your resident ID card, you can come in. But those of us, maybe our relative want to visit us, or those of the children, maybe their IDs expired. It's almost very, very difficult. So I think, yes, they have reason, but because of the strong relationship between Nigeria and Ethiopia, we want, during the Mr. President bilateral relation with the Ethiopian, for the government of Ethiopia to review this process for us, and so that the community can the family can be able to move freely within the Ethiopia. So I think because of the time, we also thank Honorable Minister for your time, despite the time of your engagement. And I know this is a very busy schedule. So on behalf of the community, we thank Mr. President for his kind attention, despite his busy schedule. We know that yesterday was a meeting, election. We know how hectic it is. So the community sincerely appreciates his the attention given to the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I came up with the idea. Everything I have right now, I have a huge global network now, but everything was a dream from Nigeria. You know, I never traveled abroad until I started. I came up with the idea of reorienting Nigerian designers first, to look inward to local fabrics, accessories, and designs, to promote Nigerian textile, garment, and fashion. I also reoriented Nigerians to wear Nigerian clothes. Before then, Nigerians were not wearing Nigerian clothes. And we started with our first event called the Nigeria Fashion Show. And the slogan is Nigeria Fashion Show says dress Nigerian. And then I had the former president's wife, of blessed memory, Stella Obasanjo, was like our brand ambassador. She used to travel with me to Paris, to Milan, to New York, around the world. You know, and 4 years down the line, I started taking Nigerian designers to the fashion capitals, you know, and after about 10 years, I got appointed on the board of governors of the World Fashion Organization. as the only African on the board, and I was on the board for like 10 years. That took me away from Nigeria. Then I needed to come up with a project that will empower, a fashion project that will empower youths and women. It's a project from the World Fashion Organization. So I introduced what is called the Africa Fashion Reception, 2 events we organize every year. One in partnership with UNESCO in Paris. I bring designers from all over Africa and take them to Paris. Then I bring them to the Africa. That was where my partnership with the African Union started in 2013. I bring them to the African Union. Fast forward, the first intra-African trade fair through the African Union. I supported Afrexim Bank in organizing in Cairo in 2018. The African Union got me as a consultant for Dubai Expo 2020. I put the entire African Union participation in Expo in 2020, but was held in 2021. 2021 also was declared, the African Union declared that year, the theme was art, culture, and heritage. And they told me to put together an event to capture that theme. I think about 8 years before, I had come up with an idea, Africa Celebrates, bringing Africa together to celebrate art, culture, heritage, technology, and business. So I brought that proposal to them. They bought into it. We organized the first event. We had 18 African countries. When they saw it was very good, they said they wanted us to continue to be an annual event. 2022, we 18 African countries, and we had 28 countries. 2023, we had 38 countries. Last year, we had 41 countries participating and 13 countries from the diaspora. And last year, we got a lot of international organizations getting in, the United Nations got on board. They hosted all the meetings in UNECA. The African Union, as usual, hosted the opening and closing ceremony. So over the years, we've done a lot. We've really promoted Nigeria. When you hear of Africa fashion all over the world, like I said to them, it started with us in Nigeria, because our Nollywood friends, while I was pioneering fashion, our Nollywood friends, they will meet me then to say, please get your designers to make clothes for our Nollywood stars. And before you know what was happening, Nigerian fashion was all over the world. And every other country was copying what we were doing. So everything about African fashion today you see all over the world started with us in Nigeria, So right now, I really want to, I've been talking with Honorable Dabiri since last year for us to see how we can work together. I'm talking about 41 countries. I wish the Ambassador Aminu, is here. Even Ambassador Deleke, while he was here, we worked together. The point I'm trying to make with this is, I'm from Nigeria. I want Nigeria to be fully represented this year. The event is in November, every November. Days have been fixed, venues have been booked. It's between the 4th and the 8th of November. It will take place at the United Nations and at the African Union. A lot of the countries come as a delegation to participate in this event, but Nigeria has really not been represented, So I want to appeal to you, Honorable Minister, and Honorable Dabiri, to see how we can really organize Nigeria to come as a big delegation. South Sudan last year came with a delegation of 95 people. Burundi came with a delegation of over 40 people. South Africa with over 40 people. They are not my country. My country is Nigeria. So this is my wish. And I also want to talk to our president here, thinking about organizing something, for Nigeria, for trade, for whatever. I think let's plan towards Africa Celebrates. Let's see how we can join forces and we can organize this together. Because Africa Celebrates already gives you the platform. It brings people from all over the world. So we can take advantage of it to project Nigeria. And this is not going to cost you anything because we have most of our partners. We have all our venues. The UN contribute the venue to us. The African Union contribute the venue to us. It's not going to cost you anything to take advantage. Let that be part of our contribution in creating a platform where Nigeria can really speak. You know, because one of the events for Africa Celebrate is the Diaspora African Connect, where diaspora from all over the continent and in the diaspora, they meet during this period. You know, so it's a 4 days event. You know, it's a lot of things that happen between those 4 days. You know, you will have a business forum that goes on. We have the opening ceremony, we have the closing ceremony. We have art, we have culture, like we have a cultural night of dance, of music, of African cuisines. All the countries, they contribute their cuisines during the night, the cultural night. Then we have the gala fashion and awards night, where we pick one designer from each African country, you know, to project their rich dress culture in terms of textile, in terms of garment, you know, in terms of fashion. You know, so it's all about Africa. It's all about, you know, promoting Africa. And the AFCTA is also a partner, you know. So just this, I think I've been able to, this a 35-year story, I just said to put together. Thank you very much for